see, I've got too much, and now I'm getting into technology. See, I'm going to bring the iPad. I really got to think about that.
All right.
I was going to do it on my phone. The technology is so handy, and I'm beginning to use some of this stuff. So John and Susan would be tickled with me over this, because they gave me this thing several years ago, and I'm finding a different way to use it. And I'm sure. So thank you, John and Susan. Hear this CD. When you hear this CD, thank you. I'm trying to let me start by saying this. This is a little note that I wrote, and I wanted to just make this statement up front from this note, and that is that I know myself that the things that I say are really hard, almost difficult for most people to hear that. I know that, and so that makes it difficult for me to try to knead and hammer at the things that I want to say, because I think that it's important. I think it's vital. I really do. And so I know the things that I say are difficult for most folks to hear and to understand what I want to say. But if anyone would just open their mind and listen, and that's it. Just open your mind and listen, and just say, well, what if? And that's all. Just put that kind of as a capsule in your thing and say, what if that could be true? Maybe it's not, and that's fine. I always invite anybody to challenge anything I say. And, you know, if you can challenge it and say, well, give me some information where we can look at that logically together, reason together, as it says in Isaiah, I'm up for that all together, wholeheartedly. So, because I want to have what I say to be accurate, I would like for it to be the truth. You know what I'm saying? Whereas many things that I used to say in preaching, I took at face value because I heard another preacher preach it. It wasn't that I did the research to see if what he said was true or false, or was just a concoction of an idea. I just took it as though it were the truth. And I come to find out that so much of what we have been taught to believe is not the truth, it's just a belief. And of course, I've made this little scenario, which is a true statement. It's happened to me. I've had people come into my shop over the years, and especially, quote, preachers, and want to discuss the Bible or talk about the Bible, and I will be glad to do that. I don't mind doing that with anybody at all, to dialogue about the Bible, what it says, where it says it, and what it means when it says it. And I have had Baptist preachers get completely irate and angry and mad, and then begin to curse, and then begin to say, I don't care what you say the Bible says. This is what we believe as a Baptist. Period. And we find that to be true with all of us, because we have all been taught to believe in a certain set of ideologies, and we call those ideologies, this is what I believe. We say it all the time. Just pay attention to yourself. This is what I believe. And then every one of us will catch ourselves where we believe something 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago as a religious ideology, found it wasn't true, and quit believing that. And the one that I always use that is very simple is the rapture. Most people who are beginning to forwardly think or do any study and research begins to realize the rapture is a concoction of the church. It's a belief system the church come up with. And it's not in the scriptures. It's not, and I can hear people that would, again, when I say that, I can hear people, oh my God, that's not true. It is true. There's nothing in the Bible about the rapture. So I know what I'm going to say will be a little bit different. And what I started out several weeks back on the series that come right out of that series that we did for several weeks about the Hebrew and the understanding of what and who a Hebrew is, come to realize that every human being that's living and breathing is a Hebrew according to the Scriptures, because they are the vessel. You are the vessel. No matter who you are the vessel that God has in-housed itself. In other words, you're the mansion, you're the temple, you're the body that God lives in. Scripture tells us that, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yes, amen. It tells you. Do you not know that Your body is the tabernacle of God. It says that so clearly. All the Old Testament scriptures are about that, okay? So we have to embrace that. It's hard to embrace it because we have been taught to embrace the ideology that I'm just a sinner, I'm wicked and I'm no good, and I really need some help and deliverance. Even though I really don't get it, I need it. Now, we propose that you get it, but then what happens? What happens to everybody who got it and then a year later they're back in the mess they were in? 5 years, 10 years later. We always say, well, they backslid. They went back into sin, which is, that's just a mixed bag. And it don't work. It don't. The whole idea is really screwed up. Pardon my French. But anyway, I started out talking about that, and then I started talking about making known the unknown. Unveiling the mysteries. And that's basically what I do. I want to make known the unknown. I want to unveil the mysteries, and the Bible is a book about mysteries. It's not a book about histories. It's a book about mysteries, and the mysteries are God lives in you and me. That's the greatest mystery that there ever could be. But that is a mystery that God does live inside you and me. Even though we may fall into the cesspool of the things that are wicked and corrupt, still God lives inside us. And that's the life that we live from. And so I said some things at our last meeting that I said ignorance had been on fire. And in other words, ignorant, passionately promoted, puts people in jeopardy of accepting and believing in the ignorance. You understand what I'm saying? If I get up here and I'm very passionate about something, and I really get to spitting and hollering and just really moving and jerking and get all Pentecostally worked up, and you think, oh, hallelujah, the Holy Ghost has got a hold of him. He's on fire. I mean, everything he's saying has got to be God, and everything that he's saying ain't God. And I call that ignorance on fire. And that is infectious. And it infects us and actually causes dis-ease to settle in our being, and we don't even know it. We thought we had church just because we run out, or swinging from the chandeliers.
But God had to be there.
Absolutely, God had to be there. I mean, did you see Brother Joe and Sister Susie? Man, they was on fire, just dancing and carrying on. No, they were just having themselves just a good old fleshly time, just the same way they did last night at the bar when they both got drunk. Wasn't any different. They were just drunk on the emotions, and I'm not saying anything bad about that. I'm saying, hallelujah, I enjoy myself, okay? So if y'all want to get up and dance, I'll dance with you. Or you want to shout and run, I will shout and run with you. Why? Because it's no. Because it's fun, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
It makes you feel good.
It makes you feel good. It makes you feel good, absolutely. So, I'm going to put a word up here for all of y'all to start out with. This is a Hebrew word, and I want to put this on the board for you so that, and then I'm going to break this word down and talk about it just a little bit, okay? Talk about this. These are Hebrew glyphs, so the original Hebrew was put in glyphs. It wasn't put in words. We added vowel points to make it sound like it's saying a word, to make it be a word. So that's how we made a word out of it. Okay. Now that would be like just me, if I just went A, B, C, D, E, F, etc., etc. But that's not ABC, even though it does contain the alphabetical glyphs of the Hebrew language. Okay. This word right here in Hebrew is Beth. That's Beth, as we would call it. Everybody said Beth is, sometimes that's a woman's name, right? Beth. But that's the second glyph in the Hebrew alphabet. The first glyph, I'll just put these on here for you. The Hebrew goes from right to left, and English goes from left to right. Aleph, Beth, Give me El and Dalit. Okay? I'll just do the first four glyphs in Hebrew. Well, hey, anyway, it just goes on just like that. So this is the Hebrew alphabet. This is the English alphabet. The difference is this. English uses vowel points. In the original Hebrew, there were no vowel points. So when they gave you the translation that you have in your lap called the Bible, they added vowel points between these glyphs to make it be a word. It wasn't a word. Originally, it was the formulas of energy. So that this glyph right here, being the first, this is the first glyph in Hebrew, number one, being number one called the Aleph, it always represented God, source, power, energy, the unknown, etc. Simply because it's from the unknown that this glyph was made known. You follow that? You say, well, somebody had to invent it somewhere. Somewhere along the line, somebody had to come up with it. Yes. Where did they come up with it? They come up with it from the unknown, from nothing. You could say it out of thin air. Have you ever got anything out of thin air?
Yep.
Well, sure you have. That happens to all of us. You can get something out of thin air. It happens. So that's how these glyphs. So this one always is referring to God, source, energy, whatever names or terminologies that you would like to use or I would like to use. So, where is this set of glyphs found in the Hebrew Bible? If you'll open your Bible to the first page, or Genesis chapter 1, I want to show you this, and then I want to tell you what it says in Hebrew. I say this and do this a whole lot. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, if you find that place right there, and we'll look at it. In the beginning, that's this word. Okay. In the beginning, this is one Hebrew word. This is called Bereshit. Ba, Beth, that's this first, that's the B. Beth, that's the first glyph. That's the first glyph, and I want to take this one, and I want you to look at this one with me because it's this one. It's the second. Okay? So actually, the first glyph in the Hebrew Bible starts out with the first word or sentence or whatever starts out with the second glyph. It doesn't start out with the Aleph or the beginning. It starts out with the Beth, and that's important. You probably think, well, what in the world would that make any difference at all? It makes a tremendous amount of difference when you start to see it. So actually, this first glyph has a number 2 value because it's the second glyph. This glyph has a number 200 value. This glyph has a 1 value. This glyph has a 300 value. This glyph is the smallest one. Y'all remember Jesus in Matthew chapter 5, verse 5 or 6, that Jesus said even a jot or tittle? You remember him saying that? Jot or tittle? Well, actually, he was actually said in Hebrew, yod, that's what this is, yod or tau. It's the smallest to the last. That's what it was referred to, the smallest to the last. This is the smallest glyph. It has a 10 value. This is the last glyph. It has a 400 value. So when you add them together, I want you to see this. This is called gematria. When you add the values of these glyphs together, you have 400, 300, 700, 200's 900, right? 910, 11, 12, 13. So you have a value, these equal a value of 913. Is that right?
Right.
Is that right? And then if you take 913, you go 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, it's 13, right? And so that equals 13. And if you take that and you say 1 plus 3 equals what? 4. 4. Wow. 4 is this glyph right here. Dalit. This is number 4, okay? And that number 4 is the earth number, right?
Yes.
Think about it with me. Number 4 is north, south, east, and west. Carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. Fire, air, earth, and water. Everywhere you go, those 4 elements, those 4 gases, those 4 always refer to the earth. And when it talks about the earth, it's talking about the Hebrew word for earth, which actually means a place of productivity or creativity. And the earth is, look at it, it's totally filled with that kind of creativity. And so, when you look at this word Bereshit, do the gematria and total it up, it comes up to a number value of 4. Which that means that this first word in Hebrew, Bereshit, has an earth value or a creative value. So instead of it translated as in the beginning, it should have been translated at your birthing. Now, why is that important? And it's really important to understand how the Scriptures unfold, because the Scriptures are about this. The Scriptures are about the Aleph, which is God's source energy, bringing itself, reducing itself, or falling itself into duality, or Beth. Beth means house, doesn't it? In Hebrew, that's exactly what it means. So what happens? The Aleph, the source, God, energy, power, needed somewhere so it could be manifest, because the way it is, it's unmanifest. In other words, it's not seen, is it? So it's looking to be seen, it's looking to be manifest. That's what a Hebrew is. A Hebrew is one who, or anyone, or everyone who manifests the unknown. Power, source, and energy. So, number 1 is looking to be number 2. Now, in gematria, going back to the school of gematria and understanding the sciences, and it was truly science that they understood. I'm going all the way back to approximately 1800 years, predating the formation of the Christian church. The Christian church was formatted or formalized or organized in 326 at the Nicene Council, the Nicene Creed, right? Constantine and the Nicene Creed. That's when the Christian church was formalized or organized. And that's, then it was called the Orthodox Church. And Orthodox, the word Orthodox means right belief. The word pagan means open mind. Most people think pagan and paganism was demonic. Do you know why? Because the Orthodox Church wants you to think that it's demonic. But in truth, paganism, or to be a pagan, just simply means that you were open-minded, that you were willing to look at situations or circumstances or even ideas that aren't popular. But the Orthodox Church says, no, you can't do that. You believe what we tell you to believe because we set the perimeters and we establish the beliefs. So therefore, the Orthodox Church in 326 solidified the Nicene Creed, and the Nicene Creed tells you there's 13 or 14 or 16, just depending on which creed you embrace, and you embrace it and don't know you embrace it. And it starts out, we believe in. We believe in. And so what they do is they set the perimeters for the box that you fit in. And you don't even know. You don't even know you're in a box, and the box has become a prison, and you don't realize that you're in this prison, and this prison is what's destroying you.
Amen.
And we don't know that. See, and we're just waking up to it, and it's the truth that sets you free outside the box. It's not trying to harm anybody who embraces their box. I'm not trying to get somebody to stop believing what they believe. I'm just saying, why don't you open your mind? There might be something outside your box that'll serve you really in a phenomenal way. Truth is, it will. It will really serve you in a phenomenal way if you can get out of your box and if you can believe it. So, This word bought or a sheep is at birthing, starts out, the first blip in the Hebrew starts out with number 2. Number 2 in Pythagorean ideology, and today we still practice Pythagorean geometry and science in school, don't we, Kurt?
Yes.
They still teach it to this very day. And I'm talking about a science that would go back 25, 26, 2,700 years, that we are still embracing the Pythagorean ideology, okay? And so, number 2 in Pythagorean ideology was all even numbers are negative. And I'm going to use another word in a minute, the way they would have used that word 2,800 years ago. Not the way the Christian church has taught you and me to use the word. But this would be the first introduction to it, and this is duality. We live in a dualistic world. You yourself are a duality. You are androgynous. That means you're male and female. That means there's a struggle in your very being just by the existence of your very being, because you are 2 in 1. If you think that ain't a hell of a mess, then look where. And if you think that what I'm saying is not true, just pay attention to yourself during the day. You're going to find yourself constantly in struggle. Because that's exactly what this means. If that's how you see it. But if you can understand it, that the better way to look at it is not under struggle, or not under contention, or not under strife, but under creative ability. Because the only way creation can become manifest is it has to go through the process of contrast. You understand what contrast is? Contrast is hot and cold, and they're not against each other. They actually work with each other in cooperation of creation. See that? And I'll show you a whole lot more things about that in just a few minutes as we move on. I want to read you something here. Let's see here. Here's where I get to use my technology. I may not be able to pull this off. I'm going to try to if I can open this thing up. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, hallelujah. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. It's a book. It's a book. I can actually read this. Oh, let me see. Where do I want? Let me start right here. It says, all beings from the first divine emanation are God manifested, down to the lowest atomic existence, have their particular number, which distinguishes each of them and becomes the source of their attributes and qualities as of their destiny. Chance, as taught by Cornelius Agrippa, is in reality only an unknown progression, and time but a succession of numbers. Hence, futurity being a compound of chance and time, these are made to serve occult calculations in order to find the result of an event or the future of one's destiny. That's a whole lot. I understand. This is writings out of Madame Blavatsky. If you ever can or would like to roll up your sleeves and really do some hard work, read Madame Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine, or Isis Unveiled. I'll be the first to tell you it's hard, real hard. Written, Isis Unveiled was written in 1874. Secret Doctrine was written in 1890. Both of them were sold out many times over right off the printing press. So, and they were extremely controversial, still today, very controversial writings. And basically, what that just simply said, for God to be manifest in the physical arena was a contradiction in itself, okay? Now let me read on. It says, thus saith Pythagoras, here's the quote, there is a mysterious connection between God and numbers, on which, God and numbers, so that's what I'm doing with the Hebrew code right here. I'm trying to get you to think out of your box and understand that geometry, a valid science. So Pythagoras said, there is a mysterious connection between the gods and the numbers, on which the science of arithmetic is based. The soul is a world that is self-moving. The Well, that thing just went real big. The soul contains in itself and is the quaternary, the tetrachar, or the perfect cube. There are lucky and unlucky, or beneficent, or maleficent numbers. This is what Pythagoras said. There are lucky, unlucky, lucky, unlucky, lucky, unlucky. Do you see how that goes? Do you see how it is? Odd, even, odd, even, odd, even. You see it? It goes all the way through. It's not a mistake. It's not even an accident. You could, let me show you another way to say this. Good, evil. Now, can you find anything about two that's evil? But now, if I'm under Pythagoras in his school, that's exactly how he explained it. So he would use the term good, evil, not like you and me think of bad, wicked, etc. He would use it that way to say odd. It's the only way that creativity works. Creativity don't work unless it's odd. Unless it has cold and hot. Unless it has up and down. Unless it has morning and evening. Unless it has day and night. Now, which one of those contrasts that I mentioned would you think were wicked or, in our use, evil? None of them. So, is it possible that our use of the old word evil is a wrong use and therefore puts a wrong idea in our thinking when we read it in Scripture? Right. Especially if you don't know the root 2,000 years ago behind the mind of it.
So we're not evil like people think, we're just odd.
Exactly. Very odd. All right, let me go on. Lucky. There are lucky and unlucky. Beneficent, and maleficent numbers. Thus, while the tenary, the first of the odd numbers, the one being the perfect and standing by itself in occultism. Now see again, we have been taught the word occultism or cult. A cult is a mode of worship. Every Baptist, Pentecostal, Charismatic, Catholic, every church is a cult. It's a mode of worship. Every ideology that has syncretism in it is an occult, because occultism just simply means secret things or the hidden things. And if you study the Scripture, you will realize that God is the author of the occult, because it's in God that the mysteries, the secrets are hid. See, we've lost so many numbers because of so many names because religion has brainwashed us. And we think from that religious brainwashing. We don't know how to even think with a clear mind. So, he says, they're lucky enough that so-and-so do it, blah, blah, blah. Do it, okay. The divine figure are the triangle. The duad, as was disgraced by the Pythagoreans from the first. The duad simply means numbers like this that are even. 2, 4, 6, 8, right on down the line. Okay? It represented the duads, the even, always represented matter. I mean, it probably should be a whole message just preached on matter, evil. Mother, did you know that the word woman, the word mother, the word womb, all of those are associated with evil? Yes. All are. But yes, it's not associated with, you're thinking of evil when I just said it. It's not, when I would say it that way, it's referring to creativity in matter. Creativity in the natural world. Why do you think when you look at Scriptures that it always seems like women are second rate? Because they are representing the creative aspect of this natural world. And they aren't wrong. They aren't evil. They aren't wicked by our mindset. That's how they were taught, because they simply represented matter, material, manifest existence. So he says it represented matter, the passive evil principle. The number of Maya, or the number of illusion. While the number 1 symbolized harmony, order, or the good principle, the number 1 God expressed in Latin by solus, from which the word soul, S-O-L, or sun, S-U-N, the symbol of deity. Number 2 expressed a contrary idea. The science of good and evil began with this. If you can hear that, I pray it will give you a whole different way to view Genesis 2 of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Not as something wicked and corrupt, but as the only way you will know the material manifest world. How's that? Through the knowledge of it. The very thing the church has tried to keep us away from it. You realize they wouldn't even let you read this book for thousands of years. They didn't want you to read it. It was only at Wittenberg when the print press began to put this thing out to the public. Before that, nobody had it. Nobody could read it. They even put it in Latin after the Orthodox Church put it out in Latin, so nobody could read it anyway. They kept us so ignorant so long that we had ignorance on fire. And we have, out of the fire of the passion of the true God inside us, didn't realize what we were doing and what we, yes, we were excited. Yes, our hearts were pure, but we were spewing ignorance. I did it for years, pastoring, preaching, spewing ignorance out on people, thinking with passion. I did it with passion. I'm passionate about this. I guess can you tell that? It was the science of good and evil began with this. Began with all that is double, false, opposed to the only reality was depicted by the binary, the two. Thus, the very first blip that starts the Hebrew Bible. Why is that? That is a very important question if you can get it. Why does it start out with the duality? Why does it start out knowing full well that God is unity, that God is one, that God is infinite? Knowing that, but yet starts out in duality because God understands the mixture, the contrast of light and dark, day and night, cold and hot, understands that that's the only way the material world manifests. And it was manifest with this symbol right here, another symbol that we aren't as familiar with as we should be. How many of you seen anything in that wicked or bad or corrupt? And the truth of the matter is, no one sees anything in it wicked, bad, or corrupt. Yet, if I did it like this, now what does that look like?
Battery.
The battery in your car. You know what the battery in your car is called? It's called a cell, which is the correct term for it. Do you know what the cell in your body looks like? It looks just exactly like this right here, but it's just like this. You know, and it's got all this going around inside it. It's a cell. It has positive and negative. Do you understand what positive and negative is? Positive is male. Male. Negative is female. Positive is good. Female is evil.
Start over.
You hear what I'm trying to say? Positive is day. Negative is night. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's in beautiful harmony.
Yeah.
This is the Beth. This is the first blip in the Hebrew Bible. Let me see if I can get this thing to work and I'll finish with this. So the science of good and evil began this way. You didn't know that, I know you did. All that is double, false, opposed to the only reality was depicted by the day, light and dark, cold and heat, damp and dry, health, sick, error, truth, male, female. You just continue to go on and on and on. Everything that I'm saying, everything that you can hear right there is not anything bad, corrupt, or wicked about it. The Romans depicted to Pluto the second month of the year and the second day of that month to expiation in honor of the Manes. Hence, the same rite established by the Latin Church and faithfully copied. And goes on, So, that was my use of an iPad. Hallelujah. I read from, that was Madame Blavatsky's. That was out of The Secret Doctrine. So, I want you to hear something I want to read to you from this book. This is called the Sefer Yetzirah. That's Hebrew. The word Yetzirah actually means formation or creation. It's used in Genesis 2:7. It says when God formed, the word formed is Yetzirah. Actually, it means to squeeze out like you would clay, like you would mold something, or like you would shape something. And so that's cipher just simply means cipher is writing or book or scroll. So this is the scroll of the writing from the Hebrew of the creation. And that, you know, that's a really good book. Again, the only way you read stuff like that is you have to memorize the Hebrew alphabet so that you can understand what it's talking about. You can understand what it's saying. But I want to read you something from this book out of the introduction. Here, let me see here. Quite a bit I want to read. It says this is talking about these rabbis. This is back at almost 2,000 years ago when they were talking about the Sefer Yetzirah. Some say that Abraham, or the character that's known as Abraham, there was not a literal character, Abraham, but the character known as Abraham, whoever, whatever that was, thousands and thousands of years ago, wrote the Kabbalah and the Sefer Yetzirah. That's not known or documented. That's just word to mouth. Okay? And that's how they taught things. They didn't want it documented. They wanted to teach you, and the only way that you could be a teacher to teach was you had to go through the initiation so that what you taught was correct. And that's how it was passed, word to mouth, from generation to generation. It wasn't written down. They didn't write it down. So this deals with these rabbis who understood this mystery and the power behind this mystery, the power behind this code, because this Hebrew code, these Hebrew glyphs make up your being, your physical being. It's manifest by these glyphs. The 22 Hebrew glyphs represent the 22 codons that build a physical body. It takes 22 codons to build a physical body, and a third or a 23rd to determine the sex. And so when you look at that and you understand it and you overlay that with the science of these Hebrew glyphs, then you can realize this is really an anatomical, biological alphabet. So that's what the Old Testament is all about. It's about the anatomy, physical anatomy, biological makeup of your body, of who you are. So the characters represent the organs, the makeup of your being. These rabbis, they knew this. They understood this science. Now I want you to listen to what they said. Instead, Rabbi Eliezer adopted a position somewhat opposed to the esoteric schools, accepting the viewpoint of Rabbi Yosai ben Zimra, denying that the Sefer Yetzirah could be used to actually create life. Now this was an argument going on back over 2,000 years ago with this school. One school was saying that you can take this and create a life, a living being. And actually, Abraham does that. The story of Abraham in Genesis chapter 13 and 14 talks about Abraham doing that with this science and created somebody. And, put that in your pipe of smoke. Yeah. So, he says, Yosef denied this. He denied the Sefer Yetzirah could be used to actually create life. He said in the name of Rabbi Yosef, if all the people in the world came together, they could not even create a gnat and imbue it with the soul. He threw stones at that idea. He said it was not Rabbi Eleazar's doubt that such powers existed. He didn't doubt the powers wasn't there. He just said, y'all can't do it. You know why he said that? Because you don't know the science behind it. You're dead. On fire. Ignorantly on fire. It was not Rabbi Eleazar's doubted that such power existed. Rather, he felt that they were no longer known. These powers, however, did exist in the Torah. You hear what he said? He said, this ability is here, in this book, if you know how to do it. I mean, the story of Jesus is just constantly reeked with it, where he's constantly saying, it ain't me doing this, it's not me creating a new life for you, it's not me doing this for you. Who did he say it was? It's the energy, it's the power, it's the source that's in me that's doing it. And guess what he went on to say? Whatever I'm doing, you ought to be doing it more. Now what do we do with that? We would do just exactly like he said right here in this book. He said, well, it don't exist no more. Why? We lost the science of it. Ignorance got on fire. And now we've been on fire with ignorance. These powers, however, did exist in the Torah. He said, the paragraphs of the Torah are not in order. If they were in correct order, anyone who read them would be able to create a world, resurrect the dead, and perform all miracles. Now I want you to listen to this. Hebrew always goes backwards to English. Now, if I took the 7 days of creation, that's what we are called, 7 days. If I took the 7 yoms, it's the Hebrew word yom, which actually means aspects of creativity. That's what it means. It don't mean day like as in 24 hours. That's how it's translated. But it actually means facets of creativity. If I took the 7 yoms and I went to the Hebrew ideology, just like he's saying here, and if I looked at them backwards, in other words, if I looked at the Sabbath day and realized the Sabbath is not referring to a day of the week, but I realized that it's referring to an aspect of creativity, and I knew what the true Hebrew word Shabbat actually meant, which what it does actually mean is peace and freedom, I would realize that first base where we build everything is from a place of peace and freedom, not from a place of void and waste. Now, if I look at it that way, just like he said, backwards, which is actually frontwards, when I see it correctly, then it would change the attitude of my creative ability. Because my creative ability now has its base and foundation in peace and freedom. Do you know what that means? I give anyone the freedom to work out his or her own salvation. I'm not dictating how you get it. I'm not dictating how you can do it. I'm not putting you in a box of, well, bless God, you don't believe the way we are, you're going to hell. You hear what I'm saying? So let me break down and let me read a little further. It says, ancient traditions state that Rava and Rav Zero worked together for 3 years. And this story goes on, says they worked together for 3 years, and then, this was about the year, somewhere around the year 250 before the Nicene Creed, they created a bull out of nothing. They understood the glyphs, they used the glyphs as sales, energy, formulas, put them together and created scientifically a bull, and then sacrificed the bull and had a party and forgot what they did. That's the story. Of course, that's awful far-fetched. I realize that. Read some of the stories in the Bible and tell me they're not far-fetched. And you know what you say? Well, yeah, but that's God doing it. It's God doing it all.
That's God's doing.
Yeah, God does it all. So they go on, they say that. Says, now, here goes on. He says, now listen to this. He said, even the expression, Rava created a man, has mystical connotations. In the original, it is, and this is Hebrew, they have the Hebrew glyphs spelled out just exactly like I have right here. And here's what they say. The Hebrew goes, Raba'ah, Bara, Bara, Gab, Bara. And then he says, and as early Kabbalist notes, the second word is nothing other than the reverse of the first. The third word adds a gimiel, that's this glyph right here, Number 3, again using this odd numbers to be divine, Gimiel. Number 3, how do you look and how do you view God? Most people view God in 3 aspects, don't you? That's what you're taught, the triune aspects of God. That's how you're told. Light, life, and love. That's correct. Those are divine numbers. Those are divine attributes. So he says, the Kabbalists know that the second word is nothing other than the reverse of the first. And the third word adds the Gimiel, the third letter in the alphabet, to the word before it. This yields a phrase consisting of 10 letters. 10 letters brings you to this. 10 is the 1 is referring to the male penis, the phallic. The 0 is referring to the woman's yoni, womb. And you put them together in one unit. And here's what he says, the number 10 letters. So this word's got 10 letters with a numerical value of 612. The man created by Rava was thus something less than human. In many ways, the expression is reminiscent with the word abracadabra.
I speak, I create.
Yeah.
As I speak, I create. Did you know that? That is a valid truth. Your word has power. It tells you, Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, the power of the tongue is life and death. Jesus said that the words, the tongue is like a tree, produces fruit. And you know, the Bible is reminiscent with that idea too, that whole thing. As I speak, you have to remember that. Does that mean just the things I'm inspired to say? Or does that mean the things I'm saying when I'm mad? You think the things you say when you're mad aren't as powerful as the things you say when you're in a loving, inspired mood? You know, I love you, I hate you. As you speak, you create. They're words that create. And we do that. We don't mean to do that. We're not in any way, we're not in tune to that. You know why? We don't pay a bit of attention. We just spray it and spread it out. Now this is another book. This is called The Cipher of Genesis. This is by Carlos Soares. Slow down, say it right. Carlos Soares. The Cipher of Genesis. And again, you have to kind of memorize Hebrew to understand this book, but it's really good. But he says something, and I want to kind of wind down and close on this, because when I started a few weeks back on coming out of the teaching on Hebrew, I wanted to show the contrast that this first glyph is built off of. This glyph introduces contrast. And the whole Bible, the foundation of the Bible, is based off that contrast. It's not good or evil. In our understanding of good and evil, it is good and evil by the way it's meant in Scripture. Good and evil is light and dark. It's day and night. It's sun and moon. So it's the things that bring forth creation in the earth. There's not anything wrong with it, okay? Everything about it is right. So Carlos Soares comes out of a story where he's talking about the stories of, starts out talking about the first characters mentioned in Genesis chapter 2. Most of us have been taught the first 2 characters to represent this positive and negative. These first 2 characters that are mentioned in Genesis 2 is Esh and Eshah. Now we were always told that those first 2 characters was Adam and Eve. But that's not so. It's just not there. It's not in Hebrew. I mean, it's the first 2 that's represented is Esh, which actually means words on fire. Why? Where do they come from? Because they come from the source of fire, which is energy. So actually the word ash and the word, do you remember when Moses had an encounter with a bush that was what?
Fire.
On fire, but was not what? It wasn't consumed, wasn't hurt. that's a misnomer in a way. There ain't no way that it ain't even scorched, come on. If it's on fire, it's gotta be scorched. Well, I understood the story of 3 Hebrew guys that got on fire and didn't even smell like smoke.
Yeah.
Oh, they were bizarre stories, aren't they? They really are bizarre stories, but if we do not understand the meanings of them, we are just lost as a goose in a snowstorm. And we don't. You know why? We've been taught beliefs that have hindered us and hurt us. They haven't kept us at peace. So, he's beginning to talk. Carlos Sars is talking off this kind of a mindset that I'm trying to convey. And he's talking out of the stories of Esh, that's words of fire, and Esha, that's womb of fire. So the first thing that God created in the physical makeup, in the womb of your mother, was a place to receive your cerebrum, your upper brain, which is male and female. A place to receive, that's called Kabbalah, like a signal or antenna, to receive the words. Where do they come from? Thoughts. Where does that come from? Mind. What is God? God is the infinite mind. Let this mind be you. We always say, let it be in you. No, let this mind be you. You become that. What is that? The Word of God, the words of God. Where did they go? They go into the creative aspect, the Eshah. So here is where you have male and female, and this is where it tells you so clearly, Genesis 2, 22, 23, and 24, let what God joined together, male and female, no man can put it asunder.
Amen.
It ain't got nothing to do with a man and a woman in marriage. That's the most ridiculous thing we ever did to Scripture, is try to say, well, that was a man and a woman. And they stood before a preacher, and the preacher said, for rich and poor, for good and evil, for that and that and that. Yeah, and then until death do you part. That ain't the Bible. That ain't the Bible. Those are just pretty words put together by a Baptist preacher. And everybody, oh, well, the Bible says that. The Bible don't say that. You individually are the male and the female. You individually are the Adam and the Eve. You individually are Noah and his wife. You individually are Abraham and Sarah. All of those mates are intended to convey the idea of you. Not two people, but you. One people, one person. Carlos Suarez says, their marvelous stories will be told later in another place, talking about those characters I just mentioned. Noah and his wife, Abram and Sarah, Adam and Eve. Will be told later in another place. But we wish now to mention at the place of Abram's birth was Kasdim, translated of the Chaldees. Symbolically, according to the Kabbalah, it means the light of magic. That's where of the Chaldees were. We thought it was a place. That's how we looked at it, but it didn't. Comes from the Hebrew word or, which means light. Genesis 1:3. Light, or It's where we get this word, or. Ar is a Hebrew word for light. Or is the same Hebrew word for light with just an additional vowel sound. And or is the word for curse. And there again, just like evil, we think of curse as bad, but it wasn't. Curse was the place where contrast manifests. It's the place where light from without, i.e. God, and the light from within, the deposit of God, is pulling toward each other. It's a magnetic working together to be created. And we call it curse. Same thing's true with the Hebrew word arato. Matter of fact, the word curse and the word Ararat are spelled exactly the same, with the exception of that one glyph. That one glyph is on the end of the word Ararat, because that glyph right there, 400, represents four. What does 4 represent? Remember, the earth or time. time. So when you take the word Ararat, that's the word curse, with a tov at the end of it, it means light, pulling against light in the mode of time. So the mount of Ararat, where the ark landed, was where the light is struggling with you or contrasting with you in the dimension of time. Every one of us struggle with that every day. Right now that's happening. That's a contrast that's not bad. It's a contrast that's very good. So, he says in Hebrew, the Hebrew, or in Hebrew means light, and Kasdim or Chaldee in Hebrew means magician or magic or astrologer. Those things have all been taught to you and to me as wicked, evil, and bad, but they're not. And so this morning I wanted to, some of this is sort of a refresh of our last meeting, and most of it is probably new to most of you. But what I want to do is I want to talk to us about how ignorance on fire has infected us, and it's actually given us a horrible disease, and that disease is a disease of failure. It's created a failure mentality in all of us. And before we get out the starting gate, we think we're failure. And we are a failure in that light if we stay with that modality. But we are waking up. Amen, right?
Amen.
We are embracing a new day. I'm telling you, we are, and I'm excited about this. I'm excited about the unfolding of these ancient mysteries. And it's happening for all of us. And it's happening around the world. I mean, in a good way. Amen. Any questions or?
I've got something that I want to share that I've been sitting there, and you can tell me if I got this or whatever. Please read. Okay.
Yeah, just pop it.
Like here you start out, this is your body, this is us.
Right.
Each one of these things are positive into that. That's why this one was first, is because each one of these is a positive into that. Male and female is in there, and then down time is in there. Time starts, each one of these things. God is deposited in there. You got your fire that's deposited in there, your male and female, and your time.
Absolutely.
Deposited in
That's
that.
really good. Ain't that good?
And that's why this word is active verb, because all this happens the minute you are released from your mother's womb.
Very good. You know, I have in my own times of meditation and struggling with Scripture, when I'm talking about struggling with Scripture, I'm grappling with ideas that I've been taught as a contrast to the things that I'm understanding and the revelations that I'm getting, and realize there's a tension going on here, and that's some of my old thinking trying to hang on, and God's showing me something different, or I'm learning something different. And so in doing that, I've been grappling with two words for a lot of years. A lot of years. I mean, probably 25 or 30 years. And that's the word soul and the word spirit, that I hear and I see on a constant use as synonyms when they are not. They never were. They never have been intended to be from ancient materials. They are each a design of the designer of God itself, and each have its own function, its own design. And so I have come to realize that my grappling with this idea is, in what she just said, is where do I understand the difference between soul and spirit in the 9 months in the womb, and then when the baby comes out and does the very first thing that it has to do, and that's go, it has to breathe. It hadn't been doing that for 9 months. So is the spirit in the baby in those 9 months, or does the spirit enter the baby upon its introduction to time? And so my conclusion is this: spirit enters the baby upon, and therefore the essence of God enters the baby upon its introduction to the world, whether it's by C-section or pushed out the womb. Either way, on that first initial breath, a ruach. That's what this glyph is right here, a rash, a ruach. But as far as God or Spirit, using them, you can use those interchangeably, we do, being in the womb, it comes in the womb via the soul. The soul then becomes the information vessel that's in you that carries the knowledge of the divine. So in that it carries the knowledge of the divine, and that's how it's used, Genesis 2:7. When he formed him, this is still in the womb, formed man, what did he do? It says that he breathed into him. He's talking about the spirit, the soul, not the spirit, and comes in the soul through information. But the spirit through breath comes in the body through introduction. So that's difficult. I first know it is because I've been grappling with it for a lot of years to try to see and discern and then follow the usage of that. Because you see, I know it's in your soul that you carry the information that you carry in your life. Therefore, I know that when any of us, especially our first 7 years of this world, first 7 years of living in this world, we downloaded a lot of information from our environment. Most of that information comes from our mama and daddy or the child givers that were around us. If you were raised in a foster home or an orphanage or whatever, or you were actually raised by your parents or you were raised by a single parent, most of what you learned in those 7 years, you got it from your environment. You didn't get it from anything else. It was downloaded into your soul, and your soul carries the imprint. And many times, children who have abusive home settings, and probably most of us, was honest, probably most of us, no disrespect to you, mom and dad, but most of us did have some environmental things that weren't healthy for us. Our soul downloaded that information. And now we're spending the rest of our life living out of that information and don't even know. That's where I'm stuck. I'm stuck there. I'm stuck back there. If I can free myself from back there, I ain't saying free yourself from your mom and daddy. You can't do that. They're your mom and daddy. Because they probably had the same environment that you had. That's why they reproduced it. I did. I did the same thing with my kids. My mom and dad did to me. I think it's good, it's right. You know, what's good and right is questionable. But that's how I did it, because that's what the environment taught me. We do all that same thing. That's downloaded in your soul. Your soul carries that information because it's an information machine.
So can you say that our soul is actually our way of thinking?
Oh, absolutely. I can say it's rooted in your way of thinking. Yes. It is the dictionary of you. It is the information piece of all that you have. And listen to this. It's not only the information piece of all that you have. It carries the information of the life that you lived before you lived this life. That's where karma comes in. People don't understand karma. Most people say, well, karma is what you do, bless God. You're sowing good karma and bad karma. Karma ain't what you do. Karma's what you did. And you come with karma. Kids come with karma. In other words, they come with a soul that already carries an imprint of a prior existence. And what I am suggesting and saying is this. Many of the issues we have are issues of our soul that need to be cleared up. And the only way they can be cleared up is run them through, not the blood of Jesus, but through the forgiveness process of myself and whoever hurt me. Release them. Releases me. Even if they're dead and gone. If not, I get to carry that, because when I pass from this existence, my soul don't pass. It's eternal. It goes right back with the Spirit. As the Spirit leaves with that last breath, I breathe out that breath, the soul comes with it. Now there is a question in my thinking, and this goes back into ancient Hebrew, and that is that the soul will actually linger for 3 more days. Therefore, the idea that you're really not dead until the 4th day
Yeah.
That idea is not that the spirit hadn't left you or breath hadn't left you. That idea is that the soul hasn't left yet. It's still hovering in that state or in that arena. So, you know, I can agree or disagree. I don't have any proofs to, you know, to try to say, yeah, this is true, this is not true. But I do know that the soul carries that information and brings that information with it. So when you come, you come.
So anything that you overcome in this life, you will have overcome it in your next.
Absolutely.
You won't have to deal with it.
Absolutely. Why do you think Revelation says that? Well, I will grant him to sit down with me as I overcame when he overcomes. So we don't think about that. We're disempowered because you see what we've been taught in Christianity, I can't do nothing. I've got to turn it all over, pardon me, to Jesus.
Yes.
So I can't do nothing. So I'm disempowered. And so now that we are a people who are weak because of information, the information has disempowered us. I say let's make Jesus' story profound and phenomenal and not let it disempower me and not let it say, well, I can't do it, but Jesus can do it for me. Why don't I do like Jesus said, as I did it, you can do it. Why don't we do the same thing Jesus modeled for us and said, it's not me doing it anyway, it's the Father in me. Why? You know, you hear what I'm saying?